Hello, I'm Terry Carter with the University of Georgia's Family and Consumer Science Department. Today we're going to be doing a recipe that is in season, and I think you're going to like this recipe. We have some delicious watermelon today, and what we're going to be making is a watermelon, blackberry, and mint salad. This recipe is really easy to do. Most of these things are at your grocery store or at your farmer's market right now. This is the peak of watermelon season, and it is also the peak of blackberry season. Everything we have here for this recipe is really simple. You can grow almost everything that you need for this recipe in your own garden. Let me show you what our ingredients will be. We will have 3 cups of watermelon, a cup and a half of blackberries, 2 tablespoons of chopped mint, and the juice of 1 lime, and then we'll have feta cheese that is optional. Now, what we have is the watermelon here that I purchased that's already cut up in beautiful, nice chunks that you can use. This will cost you a little bit more than if you were to buy the watermelon yourself. So think about price when you're purchasing your watermelon. If you don't buy your watermelon like that, people usually don't know how to cut the watermelon. Well, I have some gadgets here I wanted to show you. This is a handy dandy watermelon cutting knife, and I thought this was really neat, so I wanted to share it with you. And there it is. It's very pretty. But if you see, it has these ridges here, and this helps to cut the watermelon a lot better. You don't have to use a knife like this, but I thought it was really nice, especially if you're cutting a very large watermelon. It can be very difficult sometimes to go all the way through that watermelon. So this will definitely help you to do that, okay? So we're gonna put our knife away. It has a nice storing case because this can be very dangerous. Also, we have this thing here, and this may remind you of a apple thing that you would cut your apple with, but as you can see, this is way too big for an apple. This, of course, is one that you use to cut your watermelon. You would just stand your watermelon up on its longest side, and then you take this on the top the same way you would do your apple, and you just go down, all the way down, and you're gonna have all these pieces in here, and you'll have a nice center piece here that is really cute as well. So all of these things can be purchased at your local stores now. So think about using that to cut your watermelon and make it look really pretty. Now, going ahead with our recipe. Once again, our recipe is very simple, so you will either have your watermelon already cubed up like this, or you're going to cube it up yourself. So we're going to take this watermelon. We need about 3 cups. This may be a little bit more than 3 cups, but that's okay. This isn't a recipe that you have to be exact with, so if you're a little bit over or a little bit under, that's fine. So we have our 3 cups of watermelon, and then we have a cup and a half of blackberries. And these are very beautiful blackberries. If you look at these are huge. They're very, very large blackberries. When I was growing up, we would actually pick blackberries out in the wild. They would never get this big, so these are really nice. So you're just going to take your cup and a half of blackberries, and you're going to add that to it. And as you can see, it gives it a really, really pretty color with the contrast of the blackberries and the red melon. And then the next thing you want to do is take your 2 tablespoons of mint, and I've already chopped my mint up pretty nicely. And the mint I actually grow in the garden. I just picked this mint this morning. Here's a piece of it. This is the one that I pulled it off of. I try and grow my own mint simply because mint can be very expensive to purchase. Every time you go and purchase 2 of these, it's probably going to cost you $2. You can go ahead and buy a mint plant and start your own mint plant, or you can borrow it from somebody else. Mint grows like a weed, literally. It's very invasive in your garden. So I share my mint plants with anybody who would take a piece. I appreciate somebody taking some of that mint plant. We had so much in the garden, we just put it on a table and asked people to please come and take some. So mint is very easy to grow. As a matter of fact, I would take this and just go ahead and put it in some soil, and it will go ahead and root from the notches that are on here. So go ahead and grow your own mint, but do keep it in a pot because mint is, once again, very, very invasive. You'll have mint everywhere if you let it grow wild, okay? So we're going to take our mint that's been chopped up. We're going to add our mint to it. And the last thing we want to add would be the lemon juice, and we're taking the juice of 1 lemon. And today I found this, a lime. You can use lemon juice. I'm using a lime. I don't think it really matters. It's going to be a slightly different flavor if you use the lemon or the lime. But I found these limes today, and they were called Persian limes. So a little different. The taste is really nice on it, so I like that, because the flavor of a lime or lemon will vary, so they're going to taste a little bit different. This one is a really, really good tasting one. So this is about the juice of 1 lime, and if you want more, you can add more. And people ask, why do you put the lime in it? It's just something about adding the lime juice that gives it a really nice flavor. Now, we eat watermelon all the time, but we don't really eat it like this. This is a really elegant way of presenting it and serving it up. You don't have to worry about taking a big bite and watermelon juice getting all over your clothes and your face. This is going to taste really good, and it's so simple to do. You can chill it. So once you've gotten your juice in there, you want to toss it, and you want to toss this very, very lightly, because you don't want to crush your berries, and you really don't want to mess up your watermelon. You don't want to get it soft, because you want to kind of put this back in the refrigerator and let it cool a little bit before you serve it. You can serve it at room temperature, but I think it tastes much, much better if you let it chill a little bit, and you want to kind of let the mint flavor get on the watermelon, and you want to let the lime juice kind of get into it too. So once you've got it mixed up pretty well, you're going to see that you're going to have the little pieces of the mint. It's going to kind of stick to the watermelon. That's going to add quite a bit of flavor. And it's going to add some flavor to the berries as well. And this is all that you have to do. And hopefully you've gotten berries that are very sweet, because if your berries aren't sweet, it's going to change the taste of the dish. And hopefully you've gotten a really good watermelon. And that can be hard sometimes to know what you're getting before you purchase it. But since this is the peak of season for both watermelon, mint, and the blackberries, you should have a good chance of getting a pretty good one. And this is all to it, except for the feta cheese. Now, the feta cheese is optional. Some people may say, why would you put cheese on it? You'll be amazed at the flavor that the feta cheese gives it. So if you don't want to put it in here in your dish, you can take this feta cheese and put it in a nice little bowl like this, have it on the side so that people can put it on themselves, and that's an optional item instead of something that you actually add to it, because some people just may not like the feta cheese. I think it adds a nice little flavor to it. The feta is slightly salty, so it adds a nice little flavor. And that's all there is to this dish, and we're finished. So I hope you'll try this at home, especially when you have company coming over, and you can serve this up, and I think they'll really be impressed with it. So when we come back, we'll be talking with Hope Warren, and Hope and I will be talking about the Family and Consumer Science Department and what it's all about. So please join us for that. Thank you.
My name's Reggie. Just recently, my wife and I took in her sister's children. And we already had 4, so I went from becoming a family man to a man with a bigger family. Now, you can't eat love, so I don't know how I'm gonna feed them tonight. How was that, Rich?
I think I look more like Denzel.
That's cold, man.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 88. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
This is one amazing truffula tree. Can you imagine a place where these grow everywhere? Yes, it's called the forest, a magical place to enjoy with your family. Ooh. So discover the forest and explore all the wonder that's there. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Hi, I'm Hope Warren with the University of Georgia, Cobb County Cooperative Extension. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm here with Terry Carter. Terry Carter is with our Family and Consumer Science Department, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what Family and Consumer Science is, what is the mission of it, what are some of the programs that we do, and then we're just going to have a conversation about some exciting things that are going on. So Terry, tell me a little bit about, we call it FACTS is an acronym we use, which is Family and Consumer Science. So tell us a little bit about the program.
Well, FACTS is a program that is research-based, information that you can trust. And we have information on money, home, health, food, and family. Outreach is the mission to provide knowledge to all people in Georgia and improve the quality of life of people in Georgia.
It is an awesome program. It really is. And we just saw a glimpse of it when you did the, I don't want to call it a cooking demonstration, but more of a food preparation demonstration. And you did that. It was very nice to see the steps that you can take and get some ideas about some fresh produce that you can use. But you don't just do that for TV or for our cable channel. You also go out into some different locations and do it at some farmers markets. So tell me a little bit about what you do at the farmers markets.
We visit a lot of different farmers markets this time of year in the summertime, from June until late August, early September. We're going to a lot of different markets here in the county. For one, we do the Mapleton Farmers Market. We have Kennesaw Farmers Market. We also have the Farm Bureau Farmers Market. So we try to go to all those different farmers markets. We'll do food demonstrations. And what's important about that is because it actually gets us face-to-face with people in the community. And since we're growing so much food here in Georgia, we actually take that produce and we show people what to do with it. So if it's something at a farmer's market that they're selling, say if it's peaches, then we try and make a recipe showing people what they can do with the peaches. So the farmers markets are a great asset. I love it when people attend. I love going to the farmers market because it's a great atmosphere.
It is a great outlet to get out there and show the public what we do and all the fun activities that we have. And we do things for adults as well as children, and we'll get to some of the adult things that we have going on a little bit later. But first, let's talk about what we do with the kids. Tell us about some of the programs that you specifically have for young people.
Well, we have a really interesting program right now going on at the South Cobb Recreation Center. It's called the South Cobb Teen Chef Camp, or cooking competition. And what this is, it's a 4-week program. Once a week on a Tuesday, we have 17 kids who have signed up. And I think that's amazing to get that many kids interested in cooking, especially coming out early in the morning. So what we're doing is a 4-week program with those kids. They come in for 2 hours. We teach them basic cooking skills. At the end of the 4 weeks, if they've attended all of the classes, they'll get to compete in a cooking competition, just like the ones that you see on television all the time. We're going to be doing the same thing with these kids. We have them divided up into groups of 3 or 4, and each group will compete. And we're not going to tell them what the competition is going to be about, what food they're going to be doing. It's kind of a surprise. So once they get there that last day, they'll figure out what they're going to be cooking. And for those who come to all of the classes as well as compete in the competition, we have a very special trip that we're going to be taking them on. And we're going to be going to the University of Georgia and allowing these kids to see the campus and just experience what campus life is all about. So I'm really excited about that for them.
I'm really excited about that too, because I get to go on that trip as well.
Me too.
And that we're going to take a tour of the College of Family and Consumer Science.
Wonderful.
We're going to get to have lunch there, and then hopefully they'll have a little free time. They can walk around the campus and see if there's some other things that they're interested in. There's so much there at the University of Georgia campus, so it is something that we're really excited about as well as the kids. So tell me, why is it so important to teach our kids how to cook?
Well, Hope, I find that the generation that we have now of kids, they have so much access to food other than eating in the house. We have access to fast food now that I didn't have when I was growing up. Everything we ate had to be cooked pretty much at home, but you have grocery stores where you have food already prepared. So there are so many ways to eat now without actually cooking. And I think you have younger and younger parents of kids who may not be able to cook as much as I did when I was growing up, because they're busy, they're working, the kids are busy, the kids have activities, the parents are working. So it's getting increasingly difficult for families to sit down, prepare a meal, and actually eat that meal. So what we try to do is we try to take these kids and teach them basic cooking skills from scratch. Everything we prepare, will be made from scratch. We don't use anything that's boxed. We don't buy a frozen dinner and pop it in the oven, but we actually teach them skills in the kitchen, how to use a knife. We teach them all about being clean in the kitchen, how important it is to wash your hands, how to avoid cross-contamination. So we really try and hit on all the important points of working in the kitchen.
Well, that sounds great. You know, it's also economical.
Yes.
It teaches the kids, where, you know, kind of what their food looks like, where it comes from.
Yes.
You don't just go to the grocery store and buy something already made and stick it in the microwave or stick it in the oven. They're actually learning the process of cutting their food.
Oh, yes.
And they learning how to read food labels,
yes.
and more conscientious of the health
Healthy,
aspect of it. So that sounds great within itself. Tell me some of the things that they learn in addition to this in your class.
Well, they learn about food labels, how to read a label, because we're lucky that most of our foods that we use, it will have the amount of carbohydrates on there, it'll have the amount of calories in there. So when you're preparing something, you can look at what's going on, what you're putting into your body, what the nutrients are. So not only do you get the calorie and the carbohydrate counts, you get the iron count, you get the sodium count, which is really, really important. We teach the kids about controlling your sodium intake. So when you're buying things and you have that food label on there, you can really control what you're eating and what you're putting into your body, because you want to know what you're doing. And so kids have a way of looking at something and saying, okay, this is what I'm intaking today. So if you're on a diet, or not even really on a diet, but if you just want to know and keep up with what you're eating, you have those labels that are there for you.
And kids are really in tune to that kind of stuff. I mean, they really catch on to that stuff real fast. And they're very interested in health. The teens and the young people are very interested in their health. And they carry that back to their family and teach their family as well. So it's a great program.
Yes.
You do this also with the 4-H, with the 4-H club. You have a club that you teach, I believe it's every month, with the young people, and you kind of go through and do the same type program, right?
Yes, 4-H Cooking Club is what it's called. And if you're a member of 4-H, you are able to take this class. We meet once a month for 2 hours. We're trying to extend that to 2.5 hours, because believe it or not, 2 hours may seem like a long time for cooking, but when you really get started, it's a very short time. We actually have to kind of tone down our recipes and make sure we're doing shorter recipes. But these kids are participants in 4-H, and they chose to be a part of this cooking club, and we do meet once a month. And the cooking club is really fun because it gets kids together. They all go to different schools, so you get to meet new people, make new friends, so you're learning skills. And we try and do 2 recipes every month. That's a little hard, but we'll take the kids and divide them in 2 different groups, and one group will do one recipe, and one group will do the other recipe. And once again, we teach them all about knife skills. Funny thing happened in one of our classes. I gave them a can opener, and I said, here, open. We had chicken broth and evaporated milk were the ingredients in one of the recipes, and so I gave them the can opener, and they kind of just looked at the can opener because it was a manual can opener, one, not an electric one that we have sitting on the counter, but a manual one that you actually have to turn. And they looked at me for a while, and I guess they really didn't want to say, you know, what do you want us to do with this? But none of them actually knew how to use the can opener. So that's a good example of what we have to do and how much teaching that there is with kids. And I thought it was so funny that they didn't know how to use the can opener.
Because you and I, we grew up with those type of cans. We wouldn't think anything about that. But I also wouldn't think about the fact that a young person doesn't know how to use that.
Have no clue how to use a can opener. So they found it funny themselves because they wanted to watch each other doing this big shoulder movement, trying to get that thing open. So it was hilarious to see. I wish I had taped it. So
what are the age of the kids that come to this particular class?
For the 4-H Cooking Club, we have 5th graders through 12th graders. Okay. And we find that the 5th graders are just as good and they're just as involved in it as the 12th graders are. Sometimes we have the older kids, some of which are teen leaders. And that means they've been trained through 4-H to do things and to be in leadership roles. So we have those, and a lot of the teen leaders are seniors or juniors, so they have that training to help. So I'll kind of look at my teen leaders and say, hey, we have a younger kid here. You may have a 5th grader. And I'll try and get the 5th grader with maybe an 11th or 12th grader so they have a little help there, because when we only have 1 or 2 people and we may have 10 or 12 kids, it's a little difficult to get around to looking at what everybody is doing. So we have our older kids helping out. So it's really nice to see that cooperation.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yes.
It is very active. I've been here a couple of times when you've been doing the class, and it's very active. They get real excited,
Yes,
and they really get into it. So it is
Yes,
a great
they do.
program. Well, talking about all this food and preparing and cooking and all that, you wouldn't happen to grow any of your own food, would you?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. Yes, I actually do. I'm a Master Gardener, and Master Gardener program is part of Extension here. We have over 200 Master Gardeners that are active here in the community, and the Master Gardeners are volunteers. Everything that we do, all the work that we do in the community is volunteer work. We have some Master Gardeners that are more focused on growing flowers. We have some that are more focused on organics and growing vegetables. I happen to be one who loves to grow vegetables simply because I have so much that I'm doing and cooking. It's nice to have my own fresh vegetables. So I'm also the coordinator of Historic Mapleton Community Garden, and that way I get to help people. I get to teach people how to grow their own food. For me, it's a labor of love, growing food and seeing it from basically from seed to plate. We have this big movement we call farm to table. I'm sure everybody's heard about the farm to table movement. I call it seed to table because for me, I like to actually grow my vegetables from seeds. I consider myself to be a seed saver. So having those seeds available, saving them for the next year, the way our ancestors used to do, is very important to me. So sharing information about gardening is one of my passions. I love talking about it. I love teaching people about it. And I tell people all the time, just grow something. You may not have a big space, but you may have just a pot that you can grow something in.
Right, and talking about the Master Gardener program, so far we've kind of hit on everything that we do in the Extension office, from the horticulture aspect of it, family and consumer science. We've talked about 4-H.
Yes.
We've hit on our Master Gardeners, which is a part of is a volunteer program within our horticulture department. So we do all kinds of
Yes,
stuff, and
yes.
you've kind of got your hands in a little bit of everything.
Yeah, quite a bit of everything. Maybe too much. I may be spreading myself a little thin, but it's so much fun. So
Yeah, and you do a great job. We
Well,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about what you teach when it comes to teaching about the growing, and I know you've done some herb classes. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Well, normally when I start teaching, I tell people, we do an herb class, and the herb class is really interesting because what we do is we start in the spring, and we'll do usually a container garden class, and we'll call it an herb growing class, herb container garden class. And we'll start by teaching people that it's easy to grow something, and actually herbs are the easiest thing to grow. If you've never grown a plant before, you may not want to start with a big tomato because that can be difficult sometimes, but just starting to grow herbs in a pot is the easiest way to start out growing. I tell people everybody can grow mint. If you can't grow mint, I don't know what to say. Mint is like a weed, and it grows almost, without any help. I've had mint and I kind of threw it on the ground and it even rooted just by being, near dirt. So we teach people that you can grow something no matter how small of a space you have. If you're living in an apartment, you can have a container garden, and herbs are one. When you look at your oregano, your basil, your parsley, your thyme, those are all herbs that we use every day cooking, and it can lead to a very healthy lifestyle. So with our herb growing class, we start with teaching people that, okay, you take your pot, and then you want to add some really good soil, and from your soil, and your soil is very important. That's what we teach people, that if you start with really good soil, you have really good results. If you start with bad soil, you'll probably end up with bad results. So we start with good soil with some really good compost in there, and then you add in your herbs and just watch them grow, and you can snip your herbs as you need them. And they're so easy to use in recipes. And when you're trying to eat healthy, I tell people, go ahead and use your herbs as your seasonings first. We used to always add salt. I know me growing up in the country with my grandmother, we had basically two ingredients that we season our food with. It's called salt and pepper, and more salt than pepper. So what we try and teach now is that you can live a healthier lifestyle without all the salt. So if you start to season your food with herbs first, and see how that tastes, and then you can add a little salt at the end if necessary. So herb growing is really important and really easy to do.
And I'm one of those salt people, so that's something that I really have to pay attention to.
Yes.
Is not putting quite so much salt on my
Me too.
food.
I'm the same way, I know.
And I'm also a plant growing challenged person.
Okay,
so
you can grow herbs.
Sometimes it's like, don't tell anybody I work for Extension when they come out and look at my yard.
That is so funny.
But yes, I have grown chives and some other herbs.
Yes.
So they are fairly easy, and there's something that you can do on your back porch if you need
Yes,
to.
you sure can.
That's
Exactly.
great. There's some more programs that you actually go out into the community and do that are very interesting, and I'd like to give you an opportunity to kind of tell us about those, if you'd go ahead and share that with us.
One of the other food-related programs that we've been doing here at Extension, I'm very lucky and thankful that I've been allowed to do it. That program is called the Food History of African Americans in the South. That's something we kind of started for Black History Month. We thought it would be a great program to put out there for the Black History Month, so we started doing it at a lot of our senior service centers. And what we found was that people really got interested in this program. And what it is all about is we talk about the history of food here in the South. We have the richest food history of any region here in the States. You don't really hear much, Hope, about Western food or Northern food or Eastern food, but what you hear about is Southern food,
That good old
comfort food,
Southern
that good
cooking.
old Southern cooking. And the reason for that is because we are the main source of history for food. Our history is so rich. We have such a long growing season here in Georgia that we can pretty much grow food year round. So the Food History Program looks at where our favorite foods come from. How did they get to be such an important staple in our diet? We look at the watermelon, we look at the peas, the corn, the okra, and where all these foods came from. We look at the contributions of the African Americans that they brought over on the slave ships, all of their traditions and all of their foods. But we not only look at that, we also look at the traditions of the Native Americans and also the Europeans, what contributions they brought here to the food history of the South. And when we look at all three of those, we kind of see how we've built this wonderful history of food, because the Native Americans were doing the Three Sisters method of growing corn and squash and peas. And then the Europeans, they brought domestic cattle here. So we look at all those things as coming together to have what we call our Southern history of food. So I'm really proud of our Southern history. And we also do a program called Total Mind, Body, and Soul. And that program is focused on your mind, relaxing and dealing with issues and problems of everyday life. And that's a wonderful program as well. We also do financial planning and a lot of different programming here. We don't just do food and gardening, but we have an array of things. In family consumer science, we can do a lot of different programming there.
Yes, you really do. The Mind, Body, and Soul sounds like a really interesting program. Thank you so much, Terry, for talking to us today and giving us a little information about family and consumer science. That's one of the programs that we don't really talk about a whole lot that covers so much area. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions about anything we've talked about, feel free to contact our office at 770-528-4070, or you can find us online at cobbextension.com. Thank you.
Thank you.